It starts with
one thing, I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind. I designed this rhyme to explain in due time all I know.
On the West Coast for the first time in my life. Drove cross country, but I remember those flights. Genuflected when I heard the weed price.
For an album with such memorable artwork, it is a real shame that Haram hasn't stuck with me like previous Arm & Hammer or Bollywood projects have. That being said, Falling Out of the Sky is so targeted at me with its Earl Sweatshirt feature and that David Lynch sample that I did spend last Wednesday looking around the room trying to see if anyone was snooping on me. Thankfully, didn't find anything, so we're all good. I knew Backwash was still capable of making some truly great music, but I'll be honest, I wasn't 100% sure that what she was going to follow up the 2020 Album of the Year contender with was going to be so considerably better. But with this album here, she's just improved tenfold. She collaborates with a lot of impressive contributors like Clippin and Adaruk, but at no point is her artistic voice kind of lost in the cacophony. Rest assured, I'll be talking about this album at length come the 2021 Album of the Year discussion. Also, thank you to Backwash for having a chat with me about this album. If you too want to be interviewed, then just leave a nice cold glass of water by your bedside table and I'll be in touch. It took me forever and a day to finally come around to Billie Eilish's debut album, so she's probably reassuring the initial listens to Happier Than Ever have proven to be more satisfying for me. That being said, I do think When We Fall Asleep is more ambitious and maybe more impressive. Just give me a few more months, I'm sure I'll come around one way or the other. Also, not to be premature like your dad, but I do think she has came out with the best title track of the year.
Tell me what you want, baby, honey, and tell me what you want. I can get for you, baby, if you tell me what you want.
Any album that's opener has a line that sounds more like Comfest than Confess is going to grab my attention pretty easily when that album hosts some of its respective artists' most entrancing, captivating production to date. Well, that's just the cherry on top.
Stop making us hurt.
I had much more fun with this album than I was expecting to, which definitely comes down to the unashamed dedication to the boss himself. I mean, Jack Antonoff is just channeling Bruce Springsteen so much that when it comes to the second track, like, he sounds just like him at some point, doesn't he? What's that? What's a featured artist?
Well, look who's inside again. Went out to look for a reason to hide again.
Yeah, that Bo Burnham special was kind of interesting, I guess. Some of the songs were catchy and they were quite fun, but I'm sure it won't make any lasting impact on anyone, least of all me. I've just dropped my wallet, give me a second. What was I talking about?
Aren't you glad that you reside in a hell and in the skies? Nobody had everything, a pool to shed your memory.
I don't know if Clairo will ever bring out a better song than Bags, but when it comes to the album department, Sling goes to show that she still has the potential to go bigger and better. This just kept me interested throughout and acted as a welcome reminder that my interest in her music back in 2019 wasn't a fluke.
I keep bad company, and I'm sure that you'd agree.
Dale, or musters up some quality on this debut project of theirs. I do think the songwriting takes a few tracks to truly get going, to really start to muster up some magic in that department, though when it does, it kind of reminds me a bit of something like the Postal Service. When it comes to the lyrics, I think the standout for me is Type A, Type B, an unapologetically wholesome song that is like a rebuttal to those folk that you meet at a pub that are like, oh, the old ball and chain. It is a song that goes to show that, you know what, being in love with somebody for a long time, pretty based. Dora Jar is pretty new to the music game. Her debut single came out at some point last year, so I can't say something like she don't miss, but at the end of the day it is my show, so yeah, Dora Jar don't miss. She don't miss. This is just blissful hit after blissful hit. Losing Sophie will easily go down as one of the biggest tragedies of 2021, so it was nice to listen to 4 new hit songs and just see the philosophy that Sophie laid out on Product be kind of listened to and interpreted in its own unique way. I just find it really difficult not to just lavish this release in a whole lot of love. Easily my favourite EP of the year so far.
She call my phone and she tell me she miss me.
After falling in love with Little Peep's catalogue of work a few years back, I regularly find myself going through Rate Your Music's emo rap tag every few months trying to find that next release in this field that's really going to satisfy my appetite. And while this release here does have a little Tracy feature, it is a real shame that it doesn't quench my thirst the way that I would like it to. If companies are looking for a way to get people to read their privacy and data agreements from start to finish, then just get Faye Webster to sing it and I'm sure people will happily sit down and spend 2 or 3 hours reading through all that. She just has one of the loveliest voices, and on this 4th album of hers, she goes to show that she can really say something just as substantial and something just as appealing. She really pulls at my heartstrings and knocks my funny bone. This is a singer-songwriter album that you owe yourself to check out.
Like the grubs of a shrub on the side of the path. It's a feeling you're me.
I've always loved myself an album that embraces its limitations, especially when it comes to stuff like Fidelity, and Lost for Words is just that, even if sometimes the heavy compression can make it veer into some murky territory that undercuts some of the lines. The aesthetic on here is complete and it makes me fairly confident in the abilities and future of John Glacier.
This is the future. Let's go back in time. I wanna show you how it looked through my eyes.
I feel this goodie might pass some people by, but if around your room featuring some woodwind dripped straight out of Super Mario 64, a guaranteed serotonin boost, isn't enough for you to check this album out, then maybe just have a word with yourself. Are you telling me that Kushka, a singer that has been part of the most important essential hip hop and electronic songs of the past decade, has came out with a debut record that showcases her beautiful voice, some wonderful lyrics, and production that, while I'd like it to be a bit more adventurous, is still pretty satisfying? Yeah, right.
Boy, yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah, right. Boy, yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah, right. Boy, yeah, right, yeah, right, yeah, right. Boy, yeah.
You're looking now, come on, just let the dance away with me. Come on, show me all your moves. Let's rock away with me. Let's go.
Personally, I think there should be more moody hyperpop bangers that mash together the names of Kingdom Hearts and Metal Gear Solid characters. Patiently awaiting Curtains hitting out with some more catchy tunes like Big Boss Mickey and Goofy Raiden. I'm sad to say that I've broken the critic code again, and this time it isn't to do with me rating my family out of 10, though my uncle deserved that 5 out of 10 and he'll live and die with that. No, the thing that I did was I listened to an artist's new album without listening to any of their discography beforehand. Without any discography context though, this album was fairly impressive, especially like the kind of spooky, unsettling moments that remind me of something like Giles Corey. It is an album that goes to show that you don't have to choose between bombast and detail. You can commit the sin of greed and go for both.
I can't feel a thing. I keep looking at my mood.
Hot take. Ready? Get prepared for a hot take here. I think Lorde is a good artist. Thank you. And I think Solar Power is a solid project. I don't think it's as stunning as Melodrama or Pure Heroine, but in terms of lyrics, she don't miss a beat. She don't miss a beat. I will just say though that in the past she's never had to sacrifice interesting production choices in favour of good lyrics, and I think sometimes in the style department this can feel a bit flaccid. It's not like the production doesn't shine at any point though. Songs like The Path and Mood Ring really do act as a rebuttal to that. I do need to give credit to Lorde for dropping such a sonically bright album during a bright, blaringly hot summer. In fact, I'm going to go listen to it right now outside, soak in the sun, so give me a second.
What has two thumbs and doesn't give a crap?
Lucy J. Kiss.
In all seriousness, this album is top notch, and given enough time, it may become my favourite record made by any Boy Genius member. I can totally understand why somebody might not be as hot on this album compared to other people, because for me it took me until the second half of my first listen before things started clicking, and I think that mainly just came from the fact that I had to meet Spelling sort of 3/4 of the way there to kind of fully see the sheer appeal of it. It's not one that I can confidently say isn't like instantly memorable. It's just one that you can have to work your way into being in its area of effect, but when you find yourself in there, it's hard to think of an album this year that is doing what The Turning Wheel does.
I really wanna be your lover, but I can never make up my mind. I'm thinking about the other girls.
It's time for the regular. I didn't get much out of this album, but I think a few of you will. Recommendation, because when it comes to production, this album is really nice. Really nice. It's just that when it comes to hip hop records of this ilk, they kind of live and die by their lyrics, and I just think when it comes to Don't Go Telling Your Mama, it just kind of jumps between sort of different planes of quality, from like kind of just being to okay, that's actually not too bad, that it would kind of look like a game of Pong if it was played on like 32 times speed. It just isn't consistent enough in that department, enough so that I can give it like a positive review, but maybe it'll do more for you.
What's your name, girlfriend? What's your name? What's your name, girlfriend? What's your name?
I find it interesting that despite going for more of a mixtape style approach, this new Tyler record has production that sounds so rich that I would have to work a month's worth of night shifts just to be able to pay the entry fees in order to listen to it in the first place. Not 100% sure if it's as good as Igor or Flower Boy, but I know that it'll be a strong presence in my listening habits, much in the same way that DJ Drama is on this very record.
Are you with that? I won't get back. I'm gon' hop out and crack. Are you with that? I want big racks. I'm gon' flock. I'm gon' stack.
This Vince Staples record is monochrome. At points, Vince himself sounds drab as fuck. And for those reasons and more, I really like this album. I think it is a compelling and harrowing insight into the survivor guilt paranoia that Vince has had to carry around for all of his life. I would get your betting app of preference out and open, get your sealed copy of Tasmanian Tiger at the ready, and bet that this album will be my biggest grower of 2021.
Transparency, I can see right through, just so you know.
Travis Barker is slowly starting to become like the Slurm Queen from Futurama, being worked to the bone to produce the same flavour of pop punk that people will happily guzzle down, and that's not even me being on my high horse here, because I think Transparent Soul is a banger. I think Grow is a fair bit of fun as well. It's just that this Willow record feels like a high dive into a kiddie pool rather than a dive into an Olympic sized pool full of that highly addictive, sticky nostalgia.
These days have been tragic. I ain't sleeping. Refuse to eat a thing.
I'm not sure what Yves Tumor is lacing in their music to make it so addictive, whether it's sugar or whatever's in hummus that makes me eat 3 pots of it in a row. This follow-up EP to the 2020 Album of the Year, IMO, is still drenched in that secret ingredient.
I tried so hard and got so far.